A season full of contending aspirations, going all in, gambling big for a major hit or miss scenario, even if there's a 10% chance of working out but a 90% rate at disaster, would you even think about those chances? The Minnesota Timberwolves, the struggles and dysfunction way back to when the franchise started, 34 seasons in, and only one time had the franchise get past the first round. Exceeding that would have been considered a great success this season, adding 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, sabotaging their entire franchise, having young promising Anthony Edwards, the potential face of the NBA, while Karl-Anthony Towns should be entering his prime, underachieving head scratcher. Anything short of winning a first round series was going to be a disappointment from the start of October to this present day. Winning just one playoff game, humiliating. How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson, the 2023 Minnesota Timberwolves. The second biggest absolute disgrace of a travesty this season, behind Dallas, absolutely pathetic, shameful, embarrassing, pitiful, lame, miserable, gut-wrenching, dysfunctional. This franchise has been an absolute humiliation of a travesty. From no playoffs for 14 years until the trade for Jimmy Butler, to leaving a team with 2 number 1 picks, 23 and 22 years young, they ended up stinking for a few more years, failed to maximize the growth of Andrew Wiggins, traded him for somebody who shot 33% last playoffs, benched in the 4th, now in the better situation with the Lakers, somebody who went 2 points on 1 of 9 to play in, basically tried to hand his former team in what's supposed to be a safe win, to blowing a 15-point lead, Cat being a scaredy cat in crunch time. The so-called franchise savior suspended for punching his teammate in the last fucking regular season game. Their best perimeter defender, Jaden McDaniel, stupidly breaking his hand punching the wall that same game. A walk of shame. This franchise needs to be defamed. Karl Towns failed to deliver when it counts. Come 4th quarter and overtime, took 2 shots, foul trouble on the bench. AD falls to the ground. Karl nowhere to be found. Comes back in, absolutely drowns. His teammate Rudy Gobert, what a clown. Steps back, very scared. Throws a punch out the game early for brunch. Playoff ball, Jokic ate him for lunch. Gets in the pain, munchy munch. Gobert on defense, a literal ghost. Deserves all the roles, nothing good on the post. His presence absolutely gross. Now in Cancun, eating them French toast. What an absolute letdown. Gobert and Towns, now officially 2 of the most overrated players in the game. Danny Ainge finessed the hell out of the all bark no bite charming Tinder Wolves. 4 fucking first round picks. Sharpshooter Malik Beasley would have helped. Defensive Jared Vanderbilt helped the Lakers post all-star turnaround, packaging their entire future for an offensive liability with Butterfingers, who gets cooked every playoffs, to failing past stars Kevin Garnett. Jimmy Butler wanted to do nothing with the team, trading away Pat Beverly, Walker Kessler, the 22nd draft pick who finished 3rd for Rookie of the Year voting, Vandy, 4 firsts and a pick swap, to finish worse than last season and win 1 fewer game, losing in 5 in the playoffs. An absolute travesty of a failed season. Gobert absolutely got destroyed, abused, annihilated, and humiliated by Jokic. Continue his reputation as an underwhelming playoff performer, having high expectations, swinging and striking out. The reason the Wolves team not as bad as the Mavs, the greatness of Anthony Edwards gave the Wolves 1 playoff win to nearly blowing a freaking 12-point lead with 2-ish minutes left in game 4. How about Mr. Softy Soft, Karl Towns, overrated playoff out of towns, never learns from silly mistakes, cries a lot, low IQ. I still rather have Al Horford playing crunch time over Cat any day of the week. Simply panics too much, doesn't understand the little details. When teammate Mike Conley stresses the importance of watching film, this was Cat's immature response.
That's the kind of attention to detail you gotta have. You can't just go home and play video games. Like, this is the time to do a little extra work.
What's good?
He said not to do that. The man simply doesn't get it. Minnesota simply needs to get rid of him. 8 seasons, 4 and 12 playoff record, failed to score 20 plus 9 of those 16 postseason games, numbers of 18.6 points, solid rebounding numbers, 77 million combined. Rudy and Towns getting outplayed and destroyed by Jokic. The team still has no identity. Gobert clogging the paint, Towns being 7 feet, not being able to use his size to dominate down low at all times. All that talent to jack up threes, the team a minus 28 on the glass, the 5-game first round series. Simply unacceptable. We all knew Minnesota was gonna lose, but the loss of McDaniel and Nas Reed, the franchise appears stuck with the key guys now. Mike Conley turns 36 next season, under contract for 24 mil, has the veteran leadership to keep the team afloat. Uncle Mike simply needs to help everybody do their homework this offseason. A true leader off the court, in the locker room, Kyle Anderson and Rudy will continue to compete, have disagreements, defense, but needs to keep their actions behind the scenes and get over their attitudes afterwards. The so-called Twin Towers, only players to foul out multiple times these playoffs. Aside from game 1, 4 of the 5 games has been close. It wasn't like the Wolves were totally out of it. Not having a fully healthy team, ultimately it appeared the team will run it back with the same guys, but Kat and Rudy needs to work out this summer, figure out how to maximize each other's strength. The lineup of Conley, Edwards, Jaden, Towns, and Rudy played a shocking 7 total games this past season and never fully got the chance to reach their full chemistry. Credit to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, making a solid impact, draining timely threes to avoid the sweep. Him, Kat, and Jaden, the combo of length, offense, and defense from the wings will be elite for the coming years. Walker, a bright spot, after being bounced around early on, seems to have found a home with the Wolves. Young legs, effective shooting, and able to get to the rim. Will be 25 by next season. Does a little bit of the playmaking duties, but at least he's a bench guy who's comfortable fitting with the roster. Decent athleticism, finishing at the rim. If he can close down on other shooters better late in games, could be a mini fourth quarter come next season, but needs to understand who he is, not do too much like shoot off the dribble, his biggest weakness. The team signing a backup point guard essential with the ball handling duties to take the load off Uncle Mike, but not many pure ones in the market. I can see the Wolves making a run at a Gabe Vincent or Dennis Smith Jr., but probably end up signing journeyman-ish Smith. Realistically, anything an upgrade from the disgusting Jordan McLaughlin. Credit to Ant-Man for showing out all series. The 30+ point games, never shining away from the moment. The 21-year-old in the young superstar conversation after the loss. In fact, even with the 2022 Grizz series, Edwards proven to be a playoff performer. Despite many question his inefficiency, the advanced stats after the Nuggets series ranked 2nd in playoffs turnover percentage, while 3rd in usage, 4th in block percentage, 3rd in offensive plus minus, 1st in defensive plus minus, 3rd in total box plus minus, and 3rd in value over replacement. Many expect him to take another leap and even be MVP caliber player in 2 years. The shot selection needs to be better over time, unless he's just knocking them down consistently and gets hot. Improve on the decision makings, and could be in that Jason Tatum trajectory, elevating his game even higher, but needs to put in the work. If he improves on that mid-range game, will be one of the most reliable creators down the stretch in crunch time. But the downside for the team, not having any good picks to get and some help, will need to sign other key veterans. While Taurean Prince and Kyle Anderson will be here for another season, both were solid overall. Minnesota needs to run the offense through Ant, knowing what's best for the team to compete with the best of them. Starts and ends with Ant Edwards and not Cat. Although Towns a great regular season guy, needs to round out his game, including defense. Stop fouling and crying all the damn time. Stay healthy. A much needed backup point guard. Imagine if the team still had Tyus Jones. Team also missing a reliable shot creator off the bench. Jalen Norwell simply not good enough. And who knows why Jordan McLaughlin's been on this team for many years. Absolute trash. Perhaps an Alex Burks signing, a solid pickup off the bench. The Wolves blowing up this whole core after one freaking year for trading their entire future, that's too reckless and quick of a decision to make. They believed in Gobert and should give this run another chance, become a 46 to 53 win team if healthy. Looking at Cat's absurd contract, next 5 years, nearly $50 million for 2025, a player option for 28. If the Wolves start out next October, November, struggling the first 15 games of the season, the Towns trade rumors will intensify. I can see a team full of role players like the Nets make a run at Towns. Given the improvement of Naz Reid off the bench, he's too good to retain for a small contract. I see many teams give Reid upwards to a $15 million a year despite his hand injury. Minnesota can afford to pay him around $10 to $12 million a season, but Reid will likely take his talents elsewhere for more money in a warmer city. McDaniel has a team option, easily could be making over $80 million for 4 seasons. Given the impeccable defense at 22 years old, highly improved, but the problem is, will he be one of those guys who fall off after a huge contract? Minnesota has leverage now. If they believe his punch will be the only incident he will face the next couple years, less eyeballs paying attention to him. Having a bad reputation just for doing that around the league can only help the Wolves secure his presence. If Jaden is in fact given the big money, Tim Connolly will truly need to figure out a way to move Cat's contract. Jaden and Ant, the true young bright spots, a potential Defensive Player of the Year winner, a potential MVP candidate in their early 20s, already having solid postseason experience. The team will have to wait to see if they could get out the first round next season with the same core, if not retool. If this was 2017, if you had to build your team around a big, Karl-Anthony Towns alongside Anthony Davis would be the top choice, but Cat never made that second leap like a Jokic or Embiid. Very awkward and grumpy, lacks lower body strength, a weird posture, way too overrated, way too overly emotional, should be in the prime of his career right now, but his production might honestly go downhill from here. A classic example of one of those guys like a DeMarcus Cousins, monster numbers on bad teams, but can't figure out making winning plays in certain stretches, adapt to different levels of the game, make a defensive stop, or just a correct hustle play. Show no leadership qualities. Unless Conley truly gets Cat in the right state of mind, Towns gotta stop thinking he's a superstar offensive player. Stop making remarks like he's the best 7-foot 3-point shooter all time when he can't do shit in the playoffs. He needs that superstar level work ethic to help him win games. He needs that 2000s mentality. KG's got to give him the prep talk like he did with AD. Simply gets too anxious whenever he's remotely in foul trouble, plays way too passive, scared to post up with all that hype, and doesn't dominate. No hunger like a Joel Embiid, a tenth of 1% of Nikola Jokic ball IQ. Cat simply needs to work with a guy like a Tim Duncan this offseason. Teach him how to be calm, go straight up, rotate at the right spots without fouling on D, but time's simply running out. Minnesota's still not the right environment for Cat to figure things out. Didn't learn a single thing about defense under Thibodeau, wasn't well respected by the relentless Jimmy Butler. Andrew Wiggins maximized his strengths, helping Golden State win a title. Cat simply worries about the stat sheet too much. The only numbers he should care about is how many games his team wins. If he ever wants to change the narrative around him, should be at the stage of his career winning between 50 to 58 games every season, competing for a title. Given all his hype as the #1 pick 8 years ago, should be dominating the modern NBA with all his abilities and offensive tools. When he overperforms, it's the empty regular season stats versus teams like San Antonio, but underperforming as a #2 with Jimmy Butler in 2018, getting destroyed by Clint Capella, underperforming versus Memphis, collapsing in the play-ins versus the Lakers, exposed without Rudy Gobert, passing up shots in crunch time with Edwards struggling. Cat couldn't fucking do shit. Playing subpar versus the Nuggets, who saw that coming? Lost defending Aaron Gordon, Jokic, or MPJ, Gobert simply gets a lot of blame most of the time, but we all know he's a finished product and the team just stupidly gave up all those picks for him. But Cat is literally on his 2.5 strikes till being out of the franchise. The lack of improvement, crumbling under pressure, and Edwards is the clear franchise player. Towns simply another one of those classic examples of overpaid max guys treated like superstars, like a Bradley Beal and Zach LaVine's of the world. If you're talking about having a draft, picking the softest star talent in the league, Ben Simmons easily goes #1. Karl-Anthony Towns in discussion for #2. He certainly don't want to be on that list. I predict the Wolves gives this team one more chance, but Towns in the hot seat. If his mindset don't change, the team simply needs to move on from him in 2024. Your thoughts on the Minnesota Timberwolves going forward? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.